The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on the line, down the left field line for a base hit.
Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and Buster Grandma. It is grand salami time.
will send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
For the first time since 2021, the Seattle Mariners have won a game over the back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, in what might have been the team's best game of the entire season. A massive start to a massive series and another massive stretch of this season for the Mariners as we gear into the final 5 days, until the trade deadline. So, on today's episode 189 of the Light the W podcast, thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about a few different things, starting with tonight's ball game, of course. We'll then talk about Jeff Passan and what he said on 710. We're going to briefly talk about Emerson Hancock. I was preparing to do more, but we'll get into that discussion a little bit more when we get there. And then we will discuss quickly the Mariners minor league players, and specifically we're going to talk about Michael Arroyo on today's episode because I've been putting it off and it is time to talk about it. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this episode. Let's talk about this win. All right, Tuesday, July 28th, 9:53 time of recording. The Mariners just wrapped up their win in Game 1 against the Dodgers. Luis Castillo ultimately didn't do his job, but he kept them in the game because the offense scored runs. Julio and Cal homering in the same game for the first time since April 11th, just the second time that has happened here in the 2026 season. Great signs, home runs from both of them, both of which were crushed. Rob Refsnyder with a home run going off the foul pole. He also had a double in his return back to the Mariners lineup and back to the Mariners roster. Could he be the trade deadline acquisition we've all been wanting? Am I sounding like Jerry DiPoto too much? Maybe. Maybe I am. But the star of the night was Dom Kinzo. 2 home runs, including a pimped go-ahead 2-run homer in the top of the 8th inning. What a freaking moment. What a freaking game. The Mariners make an error in the 9th inning, but Munoz buckles down, starts pumping 103 on the radar gun, and eventually gets Mookie Betts to ground out on a 6-3 putout to end the ball game. And the Seattle Mariners get what they needed to get done. They get their win at Dodger Stadium over the back-to-back World Series champions, and now can you sneak a win in one of these final 2 games and get back into winning series? This is a big one, fellas. This is a big one. And it's not just about winning a game. It's not just about starting to right the ship. It's about how the team played. It's about how they were able to win. You didn't get the best start, but you backed it up by scoring runs. You got home runs from all your guys that you've been needing to show some power, including 2 lefty bombs from the guy that has been needing to face more lefties for the entire season. The entire season. He finally is starting to get his shot, and he has taken it and ran with it. Dom Canzone has been absolutely fantastic this season. He's been fantastic for over 12 months now with this Mariners team, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Pump all the Italian vibes into this team, because this team needs good vibes. This team needs any vibes, and the Italian vibes might be carrying this team to the places they want to go. But beyond Dom Kinzo, seeing the dumper get a home run, seeing Julio get a home run on what was a really beautiful swing, these are good signs. And seeing Rob Refsnyder do what you expected him to do against left-handed pitching for the first time really this season in a game, in his first game back from the IL, his first game healthy, is a great sign. He's mentally refreshed. He was able to spend some time with his young baby, and now he's back. Dad power Refsnyder. I believe in him. You believe in him. Maybe not. But Jimothy Powered Rob Refsnyder is here, and he is going to do everything he can do to bring this team to where it needs to be. Ultimately, this team needs a right-handed bat probably at the deadline. But if you can get Refsnyder to look good here for the rest of this week, when he faces lefties, he's going to get a shot tomorrow on Wednesday. As today when this is released. If he can take it and run with it, that's going to be a huge sign. Now, you're still going to need to add. But if Refsnyder then is able to also start playing better, then you got a real shot to really raise what this team can do and be closer to the team that you expected them to be. Now, you're going to need Cal Raleigh to be Cal Raleigh. You're going to need Julio Rodriguez to be Julio Rodriguez, or at least the Julio Rodriguez we all have wanted him to become. We're going to need Josh Naylor to be Josh Naylor. We're going to need J.P. Crawford yeeted to the bench. We're going to need Colt Emerson and Cole Young to be the middle infield pairing that they have shown that they can be at times. And we're going to need Brendan Donovan to come back sooner rather than later and supplement this team. Right? And you need the starting pitching to continue what it's doing. Logan Gilbert has been fantastic. Fantastic. Since middle of May, end of May. Somewhere in there. He's been awesome. That's a huge sign this team needs that. Now, Luis Castillo's an issue. Emerson Hancock, we'll see if he stays on this roster past the deadline. But should he stay, I hope he stays, then this rotation is going to be really interesting. Hopefully they add to the bullpen. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with Luis Castillo at that point. And on top of that, what they do with Hancock. Because at some point you are going to have to be soon starting to think about what his innings look like. Right? But Cade Anderson is waiting in the wings. He is ready to impact this Major League roster right now. And it seems like Michael Arroyo could impact this Major League roster pretty freaking soon, as could potentially Les Montes come September. So this team has a lot of stuff going in the right direction, but it's just one night. This Mariners team needs to build upon it. They need to build upon it. And that starts on Wednesday and Thursday. Get one of those games, play competitive baseball in those two games, and let this underdog mentality that is going to be there when you're playing the Dodgers, let that carry you through the rest of the season. Now, you're not going to actually be the underdog against every team, but take that mentality and run with it. Use it to fire you up. Use it to bring you energy. That's what this team has been needing. If I'm Diane Wilson, I'm looking at what the team did tonight, and I'm saying, look, boys, we made a few mistakes here and there, but we ultimately played one of our best games, if not our best game of the whole season. And I want you guys to imagine you are playing this team in the World Series every game from here on out. I want you to think like you're playing a team that, yeah, people think they're better than us, but we are the best team. We can do that. We believe that. We're going to go show it to the world. We're going to go show it to the league, to the country. We're going to go show it to ourselves, in our city, in our fan base. That's what this is about. Build on it. Brick by brick. Let's build this team. Let's build this run. Let's build the team that can go do the things we want them to all do. All right. Real positive first 8 minutes there. Really positive. Because that was an awesome game and I wanted to start there. Now let's quickly get into these Jeff Passan comments because it was a pretty big interview this morning on 710. He came on to 710, if you haven't already heard it, and he basically said that the Mariners should fire Dan Wilson. Now, to those of you who listen to this podcast or another Mariners podcast on a regular basis, or to those that are on Twitter and follow Mariners people on Twitter, not new information. We've been knowing this. But having the biggest national baseball writer go on the local team-affiliated radio station, sports radio station, and say that straight up multiple times and back it up is pretty freaking crazy. It's pretty crazy. And I have a lot of respect for Jeff Passan for going and doing that. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. The vibes are and were bad. It could go back to being bad tomorrow with one loss. playing bad, right? And one win doesn't mean Dan Wilson isn't the man, or is the man. It doesn't change that. It's been almost 2 years now. He hasn't grown as a manager in terms of his in-game decision making. And he's struggling to motivate this team in many senses right now. And this team, in many senses, is trying to become more self-motivated. But they don't have leadership right now that are performing to be able to do that. And they need a shakeup, right? Does Randy Arozarena legit need to be traded? There's a possibility that that is a realistic scenario that this team needs to explore. Jeff Passan said it. I don't know if I've specifically talked about it on the show, but for those of you who I've talked to about this team outside of the show, you know that's something that I have discussed as well. It is going to be a very, very interesting next 5 days in Mariners land. And I'm really hoping that between when I'm recording this right now at 10 p.m. and tomorrow first pitch at 7:10, the Mariners make a move to build on top of this win. Brick by brick. Build the ship up. Let's get it out from the sinking waters and let's let it start sailing once again. All right, on this episode, I was mostly going to talk about trying to find a trade potentially for Emerson Hancock. I worked out a couple. I'm going to share one of them. But I also want to talk about Luis Castillo. Because he's not been good enough. Ultimately, this guy has not been good enough. He has not performed to a good enough point that this team needs. He hasn't put up the numbers this team needs him to put up. He hasn't been the leader this team needs him to be in the rotation. He hasn't been the 1, 2, 3, or even 4 starter that this team needs him to be. He hasn't. And for a team with World Series expectations and aspirations, you cannot have Luis Castillo in your rotation any longer. Whether you trade another starter, whether you trade him or not. If you trade Emerson Hancock, I want to see Cade Anderson in the rotation with Luis Castillo as a long reliever. If you keep Emerson Hancock, I want to see Luis Castillo as a long reliever in your bullpen. No more of the 7 guys in the bullpen BS. No more of using 3 guys to get through 4 innings when you're losing by 4, 5, or 6 runs. Use Luis Castillo in that scenario. It is a sunk cost in 2027 already. See if you can get any value out of him as a reliever. See if you can. And if he performs, you can start to move him into higher leverage scenarios potentially, where he can throw 2 innings, 3 innings potentially, and cover you so you don't have to use as many arms. That is his best role with this team right now. They need to move him into that role, whether they trade a starting pitcher or not. So while I was going to talk about Emerson Hancock trades, because it sounds like it is going to be Hancock that inevitably gets traded here at the deadline to supplement this roster, supplement this lineup, make them better, supplement the bullpen. That doesn't mean that they should go to a 5-man rotation, in my opinion, Luis Castillo. It doesn't. Because that doesn't give you the best chance to win. Cade Anderson being in this bullpen, or in this rotation, gives you the best chance to win. You need to win as many games as possible between now and game 162. And hopefully into October. And Cade Anderson being in your rotation gives you the best shot of doing that. You can piggyback with Luis Castillo after him if you'd like. In games that aren't close. But for the most part, it should be Cade Anderson in the rotation, Luis Castillo as a long reliever in the bullpen when you can't get enough innings out of your starter, when Kirby blows up, when Miller might have a blow-up start, when Brian Woo's pitching on the road. That's where you use Luis Castillo. Okay? Now, I'm going to quickly go through this trade before I get into Michael Arroyo. Okay? So, the trade I used inspiration from a deal last summer. It is a deal where a starting pitcher with 4.5 years of control, much like Emerson Hancock, was traded for a reliever in Griffin Jax. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays, who acquired Griffin Jax in this trade, saw him as a quality MLB starter. Okay? So the value of Jax was a little bit higher, but ultimately we're going to use the value of Jax as a reliever. Jax was an elite 8th inning reliever with 2.5 years of control. Okay, he was a best of the best when it comes to 8th inning guys. All right, Bradley, 4.5 years of control, had been a 4+ ERA guy. He'd fluctuated between 4 and ERAs in the 5, somewhere between there. Hancock, prior to this year, had been a 4.5 ERA or worse guy without a ton of major league experience, had dealt with injuries, but has made legit changes here in 2026 and is having a very good season. Similar to Bradley, 4.5 years of control. If anything, I think Hancock probably has a little bit more value than Taj Bradley did. Okay? So we're going to play with that. The trade I came up with was with the Orioles, and I think it's probably pretty obvious where I'm going with this. The Mariners get the bat and the reliever they want. Taylor Ward, Yenier Cano for Emerson Hancock. Okay, so Yenier Cano is your Griffin Jax here. Now, Cano, not as good as Griffin Jackson, but a very good 8th inning reliever. He's done that 3 of the past 4 years, has 2.5 years of control still, but he's already 32 years old, older than Jax was, and is not as good as Jax. So there's not as much value there for Cano. That's why you're going to get the rental bat as well in this deal in Taylor Ward, who has been a 3-win player each of the last 2 years and is on pace to be a 3-win player again. He hasn't had the same numbers powers-wise that he had with the Anaheim Angels, but he has gotten on base a lot and would be a welcome addition to this Mariners team, especially against left-handed pitching. Okay. The question is whether you think giving up Hancock for Taylor Ward for half season and 2.5 years to Yenier Cano is too much. Because I think that is a possibility. This is a trade that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It scares me a little bit. But if you are believing that going and getting a high leverage reliever and a right-handed bat makes your team better right now, I think this is a trade you have to do. Now, look, I'm going to push that I think George Kirby should be the one moved as much as I can. Because to me, I think that the Mariners should value control years here. I really do. They've shown the ability to develop starting pitchers a lot. Right? College starting pitchers almost on the year that they've been able to do that out of nothing. Okay? So I understand there's the high possibility they will be able to develop more starting pitchers. But are you really wanting to trade 4.5 years of control for less control? It's a win now move. It is. And I think that's the exciting part. And I think ultimately is why, for me, I would hit the yes button on this and go do this trade. Even though it makes me uncomfortable. Even though it's a little bit scary. The Orioles get that young, controllable starting pitching they've been looking for. Supplements their roster for now and in the future. And it supplements the Mariners now as well as in the future with Yenier Cano. Okay, now you can do the same thing with Rico Garcias if you would like to. He doesn't have the same track record as Yenier Cano, which is why ultimately for me I would go with Cano. But you can do either one. And probably it'd be a very similar deal with Hancock for that. Okay. Is this the best option for Hancock? I think that's arguable. Depends what you want to favor. But I think this is a really interesting trade proposition that the Mariners could go talk to the Orioles about and maybe potentially get done. Gets you that bullpen arm, gets you that bat, it makes your team better. And ultimately, that's what you want to do here at the deadline, is make your 26-man roster better. That's what this trade does. Speaking of making your 26-man roster better,
welcome to Down on the Farm, your weekly segment talking about the Mariners farm system over the past week.
All right. So, let's talk about this. When will Michael Arroyo get the call to the show? Now, let's start with why he hasn't already. Michael Arroyo has been developed as a second baseman. Now, number one, he's not a very good second baseman and probably won't stick there at the major league level. Number two, he hasn't shown any versatility yet for sure to be able to play the outfield on any consistent basis, making him a DH. Now, even if he was good enough to play second base, one of your best players right now is Colinio Young, your second baseman. Does not make sense to move Cole Young off of second base, even in a platoon sense, for Michael Arroyo. Okay, maybe give him a day off for 2 here or there, DH Michael Arroyo here or there, and put Michael Arroyo in a corner outfield spot here or there. Now that could make sense, and I think that that's the way the front office is thinking. Now, if Michael Arroyo could play shortstop or third base, even just one of those, or even first base, I think there's a real possibility he would already be on this ball, hit this roster. Even DePoto has said that he believes that this bat is probably MLB ready right now. Now, this team needs an MLB-ready bat. This team needs some youth. This team needs some energy. And Michael Arroyo can bring that, as well as the bat-to-ball skills that this team is needing, which is why a lot of people are calling for him to get that call. Mariners are going to take this slow. They're going to take this cautious. They're going to wait till after the deadline, in my opinion, to do this. But assuming they don't get a right-handed hitting infielder or even corner outfielder, I can see them making this move. Now, what could you do if you do make this move? I've said he's not great at second base, but you could play him there from time to time. Move Cole Young to shortstop for a game or two. Colt Emerson to third base for a game or two. And mix and match, right? So you can get different types of things going on here. And when Brendan Donovan comes back, Donovan can mix in different places as well. And actually, if he can play second base and corner outfield spots, it gives you actually a little bit more versatility with the bat that you believe can impact your team in the future a little bit more. So I think Michael Arroyo is a really interesting piece to help this team. And what he's done at the AAA level deserves recognition. It cannot be ignored. Go look up the numbers. They are freaking astounding. Hitting over 300 has been unbelievable. Doubles, I think a couple home runs. It's been awesome. Okay. Go down to Tacoma before he gets moved up to watch him. Las Montes as well. But I think Arroyo gets a call in the next 2 weeks. I really do. Probably before the end of this next homestand. He will get that call. He'll be up in the big leagues. He will be impacting this team. And I'm looking forward to it. Another guy coming up to this team at 21 years old. This team is developing guys remarkably well. Now, how do they impact the major league roster is the next question. But getting guys up to the big leagues at 21 years old is incredible and a real sign of what this team can do. Okay, so I'm excited to see Arroyo. Las Montes, if you could see him in September, I'm excited for that as well. Okay, look forward to these things. But for now, let's take this game by game. Let's take this inning by inning. Let's take this at bat by at bat. Let's take this pitch by pitch. And let's see this team win more ball games. Great start to the Dodgers series. Till Friday, me and Jeff will release a little bit late on Friday with our episode. But till then, as always, go Mariners. Peace.